Hello, this is a sideshow. I'm Theodore Parker, and today is Thursday, April 10th, 2025. Coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, on the east coast of the United States. Currently, the weather in this location, high today will be 64. Currently, it is 60, feels like 59. Partly cloudy. Highs in the mid-60s and lows in the low 40s. Rain possible overnight, a 59% chance of that. Soggy, stormy forecast for east late week. Temperatures a little higher than yesterday, up by 6 degrees. Sunrise today was at 7:09 a.m. and sunset will be at 8:09 p.m. Currently, the wind is about 8 miles per hour. The AQI is good at 33. And for my allergy sufferers as well as myself, pollen is high. As I said, this is a sideshow. I'm Theodore Parker. Currently this week, I'm covering the first 100 days of the second Trump presidency. And I've covered several areas and still got a few areas to cover. So Donald Trump took office for the second time on January 20th, 2025. The first 100 days in office will conclude on April 30th, 2025. So I will cover the reactions after his having taken office. And also today, let's look at foreign policy and government organization. So first off, with foreign policy, as I stated earlier, this information, facts, figures, etc., is coming to you from Wikipedia. So let's dive right in, as they say. Under foreign policy for the second time, for the second Trump administration presidency. Pursuant to the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act, the social media app TikTok was banned in the United States on January 19th, one day before Trump took office. Critics had argued that the app, owned by the Chinese company ByteDance, was a national security threat. On his first day in office, Trump signed an executive order pausing the ban for 75 days. Trump also signed orders reinstating Cuba's designation as a state sponsor of terror, reversing sanctions on Israeli settlers, and withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement and the World Health Organization. On January 24, 2025, President Trump reinstated the Mexico City policy. Now I'm gonna pause right here. These two things, Paris Climate Agreement and the World Health Organization, I do not understand. We have, according to the last census, over 7 billion people on this planet, and at the very least, if we can't get along, we have to at least be able to barter with each other on our general welfare. We just came out of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the World Health Organization helped coordinate, at the very least, efforts from all the countries that were affected. And climate control, since all of us are on this planet, does matter in the way we treat it if we intend to continue to have living arrangements here. So those two things probably only made sense to him. All right, the next area, government organization. On his first day in office, Trump signed an executive order establishing the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, a temporary organization headed by Elon Musk, which aimed to reduce wasteful and fraudulent federal spending and eliminate excessive regulations. He also signed an order to freeze new regulations and hiring for federal workers. Now, in my timeline, a freeze on hiring for the federal government has occurred maybe once. Continuing. On January 23rd, 2025, Trump signed an executive order to declassify files concerning the assassination of John F. Kennedy, his brother, Robert F. Kennedy, and Martin Luther King Jr. On January 28th, the Office of Personnel Management offered a deferred resignation scheme to federal government employees to announce their resignation by February 6th, while stating that employees who resigned would still receive salary and benefits until September 30, 2025. The Trump administration, led by DOGE, targeted numerous federal agencies for weakening or outright abolishment. This included USAID, the Department of Education, and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. On January 27, 2025, the Trump administration's Office of Management and Budget released Memo M-25-13, which ordered the federal government to take action the next day to temporarily freeze all federal funding while programs are being reviewed for compliance with Trump's executive orders. When that happened, one of the agencies affected was the CDC, Center for Disease Control, and they were to suspend any announcements regarding anything until review. Continuing, the memo sparked considerable uncertainty among government employees, lawmakers, and nonprofit organizations, with Medicaid portals, FAFSA-related education, and other programs being shut down across the country. After several organizations sued, the OMB memo was temporarily blocked by United States District Judge Lauren Atkin, with the memo being withdrawn on the 29th. In his first 100 days, Trump has been noted for making sweeping assertions of executive authority and challenging several congressional laws and parts of the Constitution restraining presidential power. Okay. Now, as far as pardons, he did grant them. We know most of those were related to January 6th and what occurred there at the Capitol. So we'll just take that with that. Next would be the reactions up to the point that this was printed or put out by Wikipedia. So first area is polling. On January 21st, a Reuters Ipsos poll found that 47% of adult Americans approve of Trump's performance as president, while 41% disapprove. The poll also found that his pardons of people convicted of offenses related to the January 6th United States Capitol attack were unpopular. CNN analyst Harry Enton interpreted the poll's findings as a sign that the American people, at least initially, like what they are seeing. On January 28th, Reuters Ipsos again reported that Trump's approval rating decreased to 45%, with an increase to disapproval to 46%. On January 29th, Gallup polling found that Trump's 47% inaugural approval rating was historically low and similar to his 45% inaugural approval rating in his first term. He remained the only elected president with sub 50% inaugural approval ratings, and his latest 48% disapproval ratings were 3 percentage points higher than in 2017, marking a new high for inaugural disapproval ratings. A February 9, 2025 poll by CBS found the majority of the 2,175 U.S. adults interviewed from February 5th to the 7th found Trump tough, energetic, focused, and effective. And I've heard people that I know use some of those same words in describing him: energetic, focused, etc. and as doing what he promised during his campaign, whether they approved of it or not. And I think most of that was based on during his inauguration signing so many executive orders and things related to executive orders, memorandums, and memos. With many saying he's doing more than they expected, it found that a majority both expressed support for his immigration policies, but also that they also thought he wasn't doing enough to lower prices. On February 20, 2025, Politico released on two new polls from CNN /SSRS and the Washington Post, Ipsos again, that found Trump's support slipping, with a majority saying that he had overstepped his presidential authority and hadn't done enough to address high prices. The Post also found 58% disapproved of his wide layoffs of federal employees and only 34% approved of Elon Musk's role in government. Next area, protest. The People's March was a protest which took place in Washington, D.C. and various locations around the country 2 days before Trump took office, which addressed various political issues. The protests were largely considered to be less significant and attracted smaller crowds than the 2017 Women's March and others during Trump's first presidency. The Day Without Immigrants took place in February 2025 in Los Angeles. Numerous protests, school walkouts, and other demonstrations took place throughout February 2025 in protest of Trump's immigration policies. Next area, U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA Inspector General continues working in protest. On January 29, 2025, security guards escorted USDA Inspector General Phyllis K. Fong out of her office following her dismissal by newly installed President Trump. The previous Friday, Fong and Inspector Generals from 16 other agencies received an email from the White House informing them of their immediate terminations. Despite the email notice of termination, she continued working in protest of what Fong, Democratic leaders, and several journalists stated was the illegal firing of inspector generals across 17 different agencies. The New York Times summarizes, the firings defied a law that requires presidents to give Congress 30 days advance notice before removing any inspector general, along with reasons for the firing. Just 2 years ago, Congress strengthened that provision by requiring the notice to include a substantive rationale, including detailed and case-specific reasons for the removal. Media and critics call the sudden termination the late-night purge, questioning the intentions and legality of the mass firings of inspector generals, often referred to as independent watchdogs. Fong worked at USDA for 22 years. At the time of her dismissal, her office monitored the rising avian influenza outbreaks. She also oversaw the investigations into food safety, animal welfare violations, and financial audits within the department. So that's the conclusion of Wikipedia's facts and figures regarding President Trump's first 100 days, second time at the presidency. So when I began on Monday, I was hoping that some of these facts and figures would hopefully expand your understanding of what was going on. Because like I say, what goes on in the White House is mixed with all the other news, and we get news every day. Some channels carry it 24/7. So here we have a straight rendition of what has happened so far. I hope if anything, any of that affects you, that if your understanding was not as clear before I gave you the information, that it might be a little bit clearer now. Tomorrow it is my intentions to look at this item here. A new book reveals much of Trump's success is based on myth he is a self-made billionaire. And this will be coming from The Conversation, and was originally published October 16th, 2024. So if you're able to tune in, do so. So now, here we are again, April 10th, 2025, the top stories for today. Number one, 3 Americans transferred from Congo to U.S., 1 arrested in Utah, charged with coup to overthrow the government. So an explanation of this is that 3 U.S. citizens went to the Dominican Republic of the Congo and tried to execute a coup d'etat, which is an overthrow of the existing government, and were consequently arrested. Number 2 in top stories, police shoot best-selling author and wife of Weezer bassist, saying she pointed gun at officials. This has video accompanied with it. I think it was something as simple as a traffic stop. She fled to her home. They pursued her, and she came out with a gun, and they wanted her to put the gun on the ground. She didn't do that, so she was shot non-lethally, transferred to the hospital, and at the house, she was at the hospital, she was charged. Number 3, 51 years old. Number 3, Asian markets celebrate Trump's trade flip-flop, even as he maintains historically high tariffs, and not just on China. As the media continues to follow this, it's been brought out that tariffs generally sit around 10%. So when I last tuned in from broadcast media, China's tariffs were sitting at 104%. Now, the latest thing is that it's been raised to 125%, but Trump has executed a pause on that. 4th one, Trump didn't care that the stock market was crashing. Bond yields were the pain point that finally got him to pause tariffs. Number 5, where Trump's approval rating as president stands in a brand new national poll. So this information in this article has come out since Wikipedia's information. So, if you will allow me, I will share it with you. Let's see. And this is from Fox News, surprisingly enough, or maybe not so surprising, where Trump's approval rating as president stands in a brand new national poll. Here we go. Americans' concerns over the economy, and specifically inflation and tariffs, appear to be partly fueling the downward trend of President Donald Trump's approval ratings in a new national poll. Trump stands at 41% approval and 53% disapproval in a Quinnipiac University survey conducted April 3rd through the 7th, released on Wednesday. The president stood at 46 to 43% approval, disapproval in a Quinnipiac poll conducted during his first week back in the White House in late January. And Trump was slightly underwater at 45%, 49% in mid-February. But the president's approval ratings are basically unchanged from Quinnipiac's previous survey, which was in the field early last month. Most, but not all, of the most recent national public opinion surveys indicate Trump's approval ratings in negative territory, which is a slide from the president's poll position when he started his second tour of duty in the White House. According to the new Quinnipiac poll, which is spelled Quinnipiac poll, Trump stands at 40% approval and 55% disapproval on his handling of the economy. And asked how the president is dealing with the issue of trade, only 39% of residents said they approved, while 55% gave Trump a thumbs down. Where Trump stands in the latest Fox News national poll. In the wake of Trump's blockbuster announcements last week to impose tariffs on dozens of countries across the globe, nearly 3/4 thought the tariffs would hurt the U.S. economy in the short term, while just over half said the move by the president would also hurt the nation's economy in the long term as well. A large majority of voters acknowledge the tariffs as delivering a bruising body blow to the economy in the near term. Will time reduce the pain? Some think it will, but a majority don't envision that happening, Quinnipiac University polling analyst Tim Mallory emphasized. Next section, why Trump must face blame over ballot box setbacks last week. Given a list of 4 economic issues and asked which one worries voters the most right now, 47% of those questioned in the poll said the price of food and consumer goods, with 1 in 5 saying the cost of housing or rent, 17% saying the stock market, and 6% pointing to their job situation. In a rare moment of political unanimity, Democrats, Republicans, and independents in equal numbers worry most about the prices of what they eat and what they buy, Mallory noted. According to the poll, voters were divided over which party they think cares more about the needs and problems of people like them. A third of respondents to the Democratic Party, with an equal amount, 33%, saying the Republican Party, 31% answered that neither party cared more. So that is your latest opinion poll on Donald Trump's presidency so far. Next one, number 6 in the top stories. OpenAI countersues Elon Musk, claiming he has tried every tool available to harm the company. Number 7, Bahamas officials reveal American man's cause of death after body found on beach. Now, again, this one came originally from Fox News, but when I read it and continued to scroll just to see what was going on, the story played out a little bit differently. So, first of all, this young man is 23 years old, Denari Ahmed of Maryland, dead on Paradise Island in Nassau on April 6th, just 12 hours after he landed on the island with his parents. So this article from Fox just kind of reports the bare facts. His body was discovered on the beach. It says a post-mortem examination was performed, and the pathologist's findings revealed that the deceased died as a result of drowning. The Royal Bahamas Police Force said in a Wednesday news conference, and that police are still awaiting the results of a toxicology exam. So that was kind of like all that Fox News really wanted to put on it. He arrived at his hotel with his parents about 9 p.m., decided he was going to go out. They filed a missing persons report, and because they were not able to track him using his cell phone. So the police found a body on the beach and subsequently brought a picture to his mother, which she identified as being him. The State Department has issued a level 2 travel advisory for the Bahamas, as well as Cuba, the Dominican Republic, Netherlands, Antilles, and Turks and Caicos. The Level 2 Travel Advisory warns tourists to be aware of heightened risks to safety and security. Then I found another article which came from the Independent in their celebrities section dealing with the same incident. So they coincide or dovetail on the fact that they arrived, settled in, about 9 p.m. he decided to go out. But the article from the Independent mentions that he was a musician that worked for a music company in Breckenhurst, Maryland. And the name of the company was Location, Lowcation. But from the time he left his parents at around 9 p.m., it seems that he went to a restaurant, whether it was one of the hotel restaurants or another one close by, but probably one of the hotel restaurants. And the story says that he spit on some of the staff. So the manager came to the room and spoke to his parents because they were looking for him about that incident. So it was after that, waiting 12 hours when she couldn't find him, but he didn't respond to the cell phone, that the police were called in, discovered the body. Police brought the mother the picture, photograph of him, and she says that there was sand in his hair, sand in his teeth, and his face looked like he had been beaten. So again, initial reports say drowning, but they're still waiting on a toxology report. But he was a music engineer for this company located in Maryland, and they had just arrived in the Bahamas. So those are the additional details that Fox did not come up with. 23 years old. Number 8, DOJ Coast Guard bust $500 million in cocaine tied to cartels. I really shouldn't say this. It's kind of 45,000 pounds of cocaine. And they had made another bust, they said so many metric tons. But it was a coordinated effort between the Department of Justice, Coast Guard, and Department of Defense. So this was on the Florida coast that they snatched this up. So they want to tie it to two cartels, one of those being the Sonora cartel and another one. And it used to be said, in unofficial conversation, that if they are taking this much, because remember in previous events when there are large drug busts, Chapo's wife got caught with almost $1 billion worth of shipments and things of that nature. So the numbers are increasing as to what they are trying to get across the border. And remember, this is also tied into what is going on the southern borders and the northern borders connected to the tariffs that President Trump has initially proposed. So there we have it. And number 9, nominee to lead NASA questioned over moon mission, Elon Musk. And number 10, Elon Musk's brother, Kimber Musk, slammed Trump's tariffs as permanent tax on the American consumer. So President Trump is promoting the tariffs as a means to bring up the economy, et cetera, but in past, as one hand washes the other, tariffs should be at a suitable level where everybody kind of benefits with the least amount of friction and stress. So those are your 10 top stories. The first 100 days of the presidency so far, Donald Trump's second term. And this is a sideshow. I'm Theodore Parker. Today is Thursday, April 10th, 2025. That's it. Hashtag